What if the power went out for 90 days? No stove, no reliable water, barely any way to cook. What would you eat? At first, your cabinets look full, but soon you realize you have food, but you can't use it like you thought. In this video, I'll show 12 essential foods that can actually sustain you during a long outage. It's not about prepping them the usual way. This is about what works when your body is tired, water is limited, and normal conditions are gone. Item 7 is especially tricky. Most people have it, but use it wrong, and when you need it most, it might fail you. Watch until the end. This isn't just food, it's about whether you keep going or give up too soon. Number 12. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is a dependable source of energy that helps you stay focused, especially when you don't have access to full meals, can't cook, and have no time to prepare anything. Even a small portion can prevent your energy levels from dropping too fast, and that can be the key difference between simply having food and actually being able to function. If the jar remains unopened, it can last anywhere from 1 to 2 years. Once opened, under normal conditions, it typically keeps for about 3 to 6 months. But in reality, shelf life isn't just about time. It's mostly about temperature. A lot of people store peanut butter on a kitchen shelf, which often turns out to be one of the warmest spots in the house. When exposed to heat, the oils begin to separate, and oxygen starts affecting the fats inside. You can still eat it at that point, but it won't deliver the same steady energy it once did, and you likely won't notice the change right away. Instead, you may just feel slightly more fatigued, a bit slower than usual, and that's how your body begins to wear down without any obvious warning. To make sure it actually works when you need it most, the solution is simple. Keep it cool, store it in a dark place, and seal it properly. If your environment tends to be warm, place it lower inside a closed cabinet and keep it away from direct light. These small steps don't improve the peanut butter. They simply prevent it from losing its effectiveness before you even use it. How you consume it matters too. Instead of eating until you're full, use it to maintain steady energy. Take a small spoonful when you start feeling low, or pair it with crackers or a tortilla to create a quick, simple meal. That way, your body gets just enough fuel to keep going without crashing. What makes peanut butter especially valuable is its ability to provide slow, consistent energy. Unlike sugary foods, it doesn't cause sudden spikes followed by crashes, and in a long-term situation, that kind of stability is far more important than feeling full for a short time. Still, you need to be mindful when using it, especially because of its thick texture. It's best to consume it with some water and in smaller portions, particularly for older adults or anyone who has trouble chewing or swallowing. When used the right way, peanut butter becomes one of the most reliable energy sources you can have on hand. In the end, it's not just about whether you have peanut butter, it's about whether you can actually use it effectively when your body starts to weaken, or if you're simply assuming it will be enough. Number 11. Tuna or salmon pouches. You might already have protein stocked at home, but that doesn't guarantee your body will hold on to its strength during a long-term power outage. What really matters isn't the total amount of food you've stored. It's whether you have something you can use instantly, especially when there's no stove, no time, and you're trying to avoid noise or strong smells. That's exactly why tuna and salmon pouches earn a place on this list. These aren't just about convenience. They provide a clean, reliable source of protein that helps prevent your body from breaking down under extended stress, especially when you're not eating enough. When your meals are no longer balanced like they used to be, protein does more than just satisfy hunger. It helps preserve muscle, maintain strength, and support your ability to keep moving forward. This is where many people get it wrong. They may have protein available, but they can't actually use it when the moment comes. If stored properly, an unopened pouch can last around 2 to 3 years. Since it's not packaged in a metal can, it's lighter and generally less affected by environmental conditions. All you really need to do is keep it in a cool, dry place and out of direct sunlight. But there's one small detail that most people overlook. Every time you open a traditional can of fish, it creates more noise than you might expect, especially in a silent environment. With a pouch, that noise is almost completely eliminated, and that difference can matter more than you think. To maintain its usefulness, you also need to be careful not to bend or damage the packaging. Even a tiny tear can spoil the entire pouch without you noticing until it's too late. And in a situation where you don't have backup options, That's a risk you can't afford. Using it is straightforward. You can eat it straight from the pouch or pair it with crackers or a tortilla for a quick, simple meal. It's soft, easy to consume, requires no preparation or cooking, and most importantly, it doesn't draw attention the way a hot meal might. One person once put it simply, during a long power outage, what mattered most wasn't complicated food. It was having something ready to open and eat immediately. That's the real value of these fish pouches. Not because they're extraordinary, but because they remain practical when everything else stops working. There's just one thing to keep in mind. Only open it when you're ready to eat. Once it's opened, there's no way to reseal it. And without refrigeration, you won't get another chance to safely use that protein. In the end, it's not about whether you have these items. It's about whether you're preparing food you can actually use right away, or still relying on conditions that no longer exist. Number 10. Canned beans. Canned beans are often ignored, at least until the moment your body starts losing momentum. They're not exciting or particularly appealing, but during a long-term power outage, their importance becomes clear. When your diet is mostly dry foods and you're not getting enough fiber, your digestive system begins to struggle. You may start to feel bloated, slow, and low on steady energy, and that's when it hits you. It's not that you're running out of food, it's that you're missing what actually keeps your body functioning properly. That's where beans come in. An unopened can of beans can last anywhere from 2 to 5 years, sometimes even longer if stored correctly, which makes them incredibly reliable. They require no cooking, no preparation, and no special tools. You simply open the can and eat, even when you're exhausted or short on time. In situations where everything feels slower and more difficult, that kind of simplicity becomes something you can depend on. What truly makes beans essential isn't their calorie count, it's how they support your digestive system. As long as your digestion continues to work, your body can keep going as well. This is something many people don't fully understand until they've spent several days eating only dry processed foods. One person shared a very honest experience. They stocked up heavily on dry items because it seemed more convenient at the time. But after just a few days, their body started to shut down. That's a common mistake, assuming that having enough calories is all that matters. In reality, your body needs more than just energy to function properly. To make sure beans stay safe and usable, proper storage is important. Keep the cans in a cool, dry place, away from heat and direct sunlight. It's also important not to store them directly on damp or concrete floors, since moisture can slowly cause the cans to corrode without you noticing. These small precautions don't improve the food itself, but they ensure it remains safe until the moment you need it. In practice, beans aren't something you rely on just to feel full. They're used to help restore balance in your body. You can eat them straight from the can or combine them with crackers, tortillas, or even another protein source to create a simple, balanced meal. They're soft and easy to eat, which becomes especially important when your body is tired and can no longer handle harder foods. However, always check the can before opening. If it's swollen, leaking, or gives off an unusual smell, that's a serious warning sign that the food is no longer safe. In a situation where medical help isn't available, even a small mistake like that can cost you your ability to keep going. Beans might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about survival food, but over the course of 90 days without power, they could be what keeps you from breaking down. In the end, it's not about simply having beans. It's about having enough of these basic functional foods that allow your body to keep operating. Number 9. Tortillas. What most people rely on as bread is usually the first thing to spoil, and that's exactly why tortillas deserve a place on this list. Regular bread molds fast, falls apart easily, and after only a few days without power, it practically disappears from your diet. Tortillas, on the other hand, serve a different purpose. They're not just bread, they're a foundation. They act as a base that can turn whatever ingredients you have into something that actually feels like a proper meal. When you don't have a stove, a plate, or the option to make noise, there's no need for preparation. All you need is a single tortilla, add whatever you have on hand, whether it's beans, fish, or even a bit of peanut butter, and suddenly you have a complete meal. It's compact, easy to handle, and leaves no mess behind, which is something people rarely think about until they're in that situation. This is where many go wrong in their planning. They may have plenty of food stored, but no simple, consistent way to actually eat it day after day. Tortillas solve that problem directly. An unopened package can last anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on the type, and when stored in a cool, dry, sealed place, they often last longer than expected. Unlike bread, which can start going bad almost immediately, tortillas are far more stable. However, there's one detail that often goes unnoticed. Even a small amount of moisture can trigger spoilage from the inside out, meaning you might not see any visible signs until it's already too late. It can look completely fine, feel normal in your hands, and still be unsafe to eat without you realizing it. That's not a flaw in the food itself. It's usually a result of improper storage. In practice, tortillas aren't meant to be eaten alone. They function more like a tool. They act as a base layer that helps you combine different foods into one simple, manageable meal. They let you eat with your hands, avoid using utensils, skip cleanup, and leave no indication that you've been eating at all. In situations where drawing attention could be a problem, that level of simplicity becomes a real advantage. You might have enough food stored, but still struggle with how to consume it consistently every day, and that's where tortillas become essential. They may not stand out in your kitchen under normal circumstances, but during 90 days without power, they could be what allows you to turn whatever remains into something sustainable. In the end, it's not just about having enough food, it's about having a practical way to live off of it day by day, instead of assuming you'll figure it out when the time comes. Number 8. Canned fruit. Your body can handle going without food for quite a while, but after roughly 72 hours without enough water, things start to fall apart quickly. That's why this isn't just about food, it's really about hydration. During a long power outage, when your access to clean, reliable water becomes uncertain and you don't know when you'll drink again, the real threat isn't hunger, it's dehydration. And in that kind of situation, canned fruit turns into one of the few safe options you can rely on immediately. There's no need for preparation, boiling, or depending on any external system. Each can offers more than just fruit. It also provides the liquid inside. That liquid contains a bit of natural sugar, which helps your body absorb it more efficiently, along with a small sense of normalcy that people often don't realize they need until things start to feel unstable. And that sense of normalcy plays a role in keeping your mind steady. This is where many people make a mistake. They open the can, eat the fruit, and pour out the liquid, when in reality that liquid is what their body needs the most. If stored properly, an unopened can of fruit can last anywhere from 1 to 3 years, sometimes even longer. To preserve it, all you need to do is keep it in a cool, dry place, away from heat and direct sunlight. Like other canned goods, you should always check for warning signs. If the can is swollen, leaking, or heavily dented, it's not safe to use. In practice, this isn't something you treat like a dessert. It's an extra source of hydration. You can eat it straight from the can or portion it out over time to help maintain your body's balance throughout the day. This becomes especially important when you're unsure about your next source of water. Because when dehydration begins, it's not just about feeling thirsty. Your thinking becomes unclear, your reaction time slows, and you gradually lose control without even noticing it. There's also an important detail to consider. Not all canned fruit is the same. If you choose options packed in heavy syrup, the high sugar content can actually leave you feeling more thirsty afterward. On the other hand, fruit stored in water or natural juice helps keep your body more stable without causing sudden drops. This isn't about filling your stomach. It's about keeping your mind clear when your body starts running low on water. In the end, it's not simply about having food available. It's about whether you've prepared enough of what truly helps you endure, or if you've only planned for the temporary feeling of being full. Number 7. Oats, eaten cold. You might already have oats sitting in your kitchen, but that doesn't automatically mean you'll be able to rely on them when it matters. Most people assume oats always require cooking, a stove, or at least hot water. And that assumption is exactly what causes them to overlook one of the most dependable foods during a long power outage. In reality, oats don't need heat at all, just water and a bit of time. Even without a stove, gas, or the ability to create smells, you can simply soak them and eat them cold. That's what makes them useful when so many other foods become impractical. Their real strength isn't about providing quick energy, it's about consistency. Unlike sugary foods that cause spikes and crashes, oats help keep your blood sugar steady, allowing you to stay alert and avoid sudden exhaustion when you have to go long periods without a full meal. But this is where people often make a mistake. They store oats but don't think about how to use them without cooking, or they don't have enough water set aside to properly soak them. When kept in a cool, dry, sealed environment, oats can last anywhere from 1 to 2 years. However, once they start absorbing moisture, they may not spoil right away, but they lose their practicality for how you need to use them. In a real survival situation, that alone can make them effectively useless. One critical factor to plan for is water. Even when eaten cold, oats still require enough water to soften, and if you haven't accounted for that, you're essentially storing something you can't use. And when you're already drained, you won't have the patience to wait as long as you think for them to become edible. In practice, the process is simple. Add water, give it time to absorb, and then eat it as is. You can also mix it with honey or canned fruit to create a soft, easy-to-digest meal that helps maintain your energy levels. Oats may not stand out as anything special, but during 90 days without power, they could be what prevents your energy from collapsing. So the real question is, do you actually know how to use them effectively, or are you just assuming you'll figure it out when the time comes? Number 6. Nutrition bars. You might be carrying plenty of stored energy, but that doesn't automatically mean you'll be able to use it when the time comes. Nutrition bars are one of the most commonly stocked items. Small, portable, easy to store, and requiring no preparation, which makes them seem like the quickest energy source available. But in reality, things don't always work out that way. When you're exhausted, dehydrated, and no longer functioning at your normal level, it's not enough to have something with calories. You need something you can actually eat. And this is exactly where many people run into trouble. They're holding energy in their hands, but they can't physically get it into their body. A lot of nutrition bars become extremely hard when exposed to temperature changes, or overly chewy after sitting in storage for too long. When you're already worn down, thirsty, or dealing with limited strength, especially for older adults, biting into something like that may be much harder than expected. At that point, the problem shifts. It's no longer about what you have, but what you're actually able to use. Temperature plays a major role here. If it gets too hot, the bar can melt and separate. If it's too cold or stored for extended periods, it can harden to the point of being nearly inedible. To avoid that, they should be kept in a cool, dry place with stable conditions, away from frequent temperature swings. It's also important to test the type you're storing ahead of time. Don't wait until you desperately need it to discover it doesn't work for you. In practice, nutrition bars aren't meant to replace meals. They're more of a quick fix. You use them when you're on the move, when time is limited, or when you need to get energy into your system fast. But if you've chosen the wrong kind, or never tried eating one while truly exhausted, then what you've stored is just theoretical energy. Over the course of 90 days without power, it's not about how many calories you've collected. It's about how much of that energy you can actually consume. So the real question becomes, you may have energy within reach, but can you truly use it when you need it most? Number 5. Nuts and trail mix. You might be carrying a high amount of energy in your supplies, but that doesn't automatically mean your body will be able to maintain its strength. Nuts and trail mix are among the most energy-dense foods you can store. Small in size, easy to carry, requiring no cooking, and ready to eat at any time. But their real value goes beyond just calories. They help keep your body functioning when full meals aren't available. If used at the right moment, even a small portion can support you for hours, but only if you understand how to use them properly. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume all nuts are the same, but that's not the case. The fats in nuts are highly sensitive to heat and light, and they begin to degrade when exposed to those conditions. What makes this tricky is that they don't spoil right away. You can still eat them, but the energy they provide is no longer as steady or effective as before. Instead, you may feel slightly more tired, a bit slower, without realizing that the quality has changed. That's how your body gradually declines without obvious warning signs. A typical bag of nuts can last anywhere from 6 months to over a year, but storage conditions are what really determine that. They need to be kept in a cool, dry, sealed environment, away from heat. Even a small mistake in storage can leave you with something that still has calories but no longer delivers real benefit. Another detail people often overlook is when to eat them. If you're already low on water, nuts and trail mix may not be the best choice. They're dry, often salty, and high in fat, which can increase thirst and cause your condition to worsen more quickly. It's better to pair them with water and consume them in small portions when you first start feeling tired, not when you're already completely drained. There's also a physical aspect to consider. Many types of nuts are quite hard, and when you're fatigued, dehydrated, or older, chewing them may be more difficult than expected. At that point, the energy you've stored becomes something you can't even use. A good trail mix isn't necessarily the most expensive one. It's the one that works under real conditions. Something easy to chew, simple to digest, with a bit of salt, and that doesn't cause your body to react negatively. Nuts may not stand out as the most important item in your kitchen, but over 90 days without power, they could play a key role in keeping you going. So the real question is, are you just storing calories, or are you preparing something your body can actually use when it matters most? Number 4. Ready-to-eat soup. You might have plenty of food stored, but that doesn't matter much if you don't have access to water. That's why ready-to-eat soup isn't just food. It's both water and energy in one convenient package. During a prolonged power outage, when you can't rely on a stable water source, can't cook, boil, or treat water, what really keeps you from collapsing isn't the number of calories you've stockpiled. It's how much hydration you can actually get into your body while consuming energy at the same time. This is what makes ready-to-eat soup so valuable. You can eat it cold, with no preparation, and without depending on any external system. Open it, and it's ready to use immediately. But this is also where many people go wrong. They pick varieties that require mixing with water, assuming that simply adding water is enough. When there's no clean water and no way to boil, those soups become almost useless. At that point, the problem isn't a lack of food. It's a lack of something you can actually use right away. A properly stored can of soup can last anywhere from 2 to 5 years, kept dry, cool, and away from heat and sunlight. However, there's one detail that's often overlooked. Eating salty soup without enough water can actually make you thirstier, and if you don't manage it, your body can decline faster than expected. In practice, you don't use soup as a large meal. Instead, divide it throughout the day to maintain hydration and energy simultaneously. It may not seem like a critical item at first, but over 90 days without power, ready-to-eat soup could be the one thing that keeps you going when everything else fails. The key question is this: are you preparing items you can use immediately? Or are you just storing foods that only work under ideal conditions? Number 3. Dry crackers. You may have plenty of food stored, but if you don't have a way to combine it, it doesn't really become a complete meal. That's exactly where dry crackers come in. Crackers aren't meant to be eaten on their own. They serve as a base, a foundation that allows other foods to work together. A little fish, some beans, a smear of peanut butter. Suddenly, everything comes together into a full meal with just one simple item you can hold in your hand. During a prolonged power outage, when you want to avoid making noise, washing dishes, or leaving any trace, dry crackers provide a clean, compact way to eat while maintaining your daily rhythm. But this is where many people make mistakes. The challenge isn't before opening the package, it's what happens after. Once air gets in, things start to change. Crackers don't spoil immediately, but they soften, lose their structure, and become harder to eat precisely when you're most tired. You open the pack in the morning, and by the afternoon, it's no longer what you expected. In a situation where you have no alternatives, that's not just inconvenient, it can disrupt your entire meal plan. There's a detail most people overlook. Moisture doesn't ruin crackers instantly, but it makes them unappetizing. And when you no longer want to eat, you start eating less, which is exactly how your body begins to decline without you even realizing it. To keep them functional, seal crackers properly after opening. Keep them dry, avoid humid air, or pre-portion them into smaller servings so you don't have to open the whole package at once. These steps don't make the crackers taste better, but they preserve their usability for when you actually need them. In practice, crackers aren't about fullness. They're about maintaining the structure of a meal, helping all your other foods work together. Over 90 days without power, that small role can become more important than you might expect. And the real question is, are you storing food, or are you storing something that loses its value the moment you open it? Number 2. Canned meat. You might have protein in your pantry, but that doesn't guarantee your body will actually maintain its strength. Canned meat is one of the few protein sources you can use right away. No cooking, no preparation, and most importantly, no special conditions required. During a prolonged power outage, when you're exhausted and your body isn't functioning normally, you don't just need protein, you need something you can actually eat. This is where many people go wrong. They opt for dried meat or jerky, thinking it's a reasonable alternative. In reality, it's tough, hard to chew, and usually requires water to swallow. You bite into it, and immediately you notice it's difficult to get down. You have to force yourself to chew and swallow, but your body isn't cooperating the way it normally would. When you're tired, dehydrated, or simply low on energy, what should be a source of nourishment becomes a burden that slows you down. At that point, it's not a lack of protein that's the problem. It's that your body can't process what you have. Canned meat solves this issue. It's soft, easy to eat, and doesn't require water to consume. A properly stored can of meat can last 2 to 5 years. Keep it dry, cool, and away from heat or direct sunlight. There's one detail many people overlook. Heat can alter the fats in the meat, and you might not notice the change until your body reacts differently. In practice, you don't eat canned meat to feel full. You use it to keep your body from declining. You can eat it straight from the can or combine it with crackers or a tortilla to make a simple, complete meal. It's soft, easy to digest, and doesn't force your body to work harder than it already is. This isn't a minor detail. It's the difference between having protein and actually being able to use it. Over 90 days without power, what counts isn't how much food you have. It's how much your body can absorb and use when it's at its lowest. The essential question is, are you selecting the right protein source, or are you storing something your body will reject when you need it most? 1. Honey. Having food doesn't always mean you can keep going, and that's where honey comes in. It's not just a snack, it's what can sustain you when your body and mind start to fail. Honey doesn't spoil. It resists time almost completely, staying usable for years without electricity or special conditions. Its true power isn't just in its shelf life, it's in how it fuels you when you're exhausted, when you've lost the desire to eat, and when your motivation is fading. A small amount of honey delivers energy almost instantly, with no prep and minimal digestion. It isn't a meal, it's what prevents collapse. Historically, travelers carried honey not for taste, but because it provided steady energy while keeping the mind sharp in extreme conditions. You don't eat large amounts. You use a little at the moment you start to falter, when your body slows and your thinking becomes foggy. That's when honey works. Yes, honey can crystallize or thicken over time or with temperature changes. Many people assume it's gone bad, but it's not. A bit of gentle heat restores it, making it one of the most reliable foods you can rely on. Honey won't make you live longer, but it keeps you moving when you still have the chance to continue. In a crisis, survival isn't about how much food you have, it's about how much longer you can keep going compared to others. Even after hearing this whole list, remember, preparation isn't about stockpiling more. It's about knowing what actually sustains you. When everything becomes unstable, the difference is not quantity, but the right choice at the exact critical moment. Most people are unprepared for that. Not because they lack food, but because they've never thought about choosing wisely. You're different. You're paying attention and seeing clearly. The next video will show something very specific. If a nuclear attack happened tonight, which first 5 foods you would need, not what you like, but what keeps you strong, alert, and able to continue. Watch it, not out of fear, but to be the one ready while others are still figuring things out.